What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall markets. I'll talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very crazy day as we have big data coming out. We have the FOMC minutes, which is going to cause some high volatility for the markets, and also more data. So we'll break down everything for you guys. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, and the offer ends at the end of March. So, anyways, as far as the market's going, NIO has a very, very nice looking double bottom here, which tends to be bullish. We did dip a little bit today, which is completely normal. We were expecting this to pull back to fill this gap first before it tries to bounce again. But whether or not that happens depends on some news and data, so I want to focus on that first. To start things off, we had some good news that came out. NIO has a deal that's been made with GWM, also known as the Great Wall Motors, and this basically allows customers to access its charging network across China. So, what does this mean? The deal allows for owners of plug in models sold under GWM's brands to locate and use NIO's extensive network of charging and by using the GWM app. This is going to be improving customer convenience, and you have to consider that NIO has about 3,100 of these charging and battery swapping stations and about 25,000 charging piles across China. So that's very, very good news for NIO because this is beginning to resemble Tesla to some extent, the way that Tesla is able to get other countries to adopt their superchargers, and then that allows them to build a lot more revenue thanks to that. So we're seeing NIO doing the same thing, forming deals with other countries and not countries, companies in China, and that helps them build a lot more revenue as well. So I think it's going to be very useful, at least for the long term. That's a very, very good piece of news thus far. There's also been talk about their EC7 SUV, how it could be used in different terrains, and why it's getting a lot more exposure, so which I think is a pretty good piece of news, at least thus far. For other pieces of news, JP Morgan remains neutral on NIO. They used to give it an overweight rating. Now they kind of changed that. The price price ratio went up just a little bit, but was not really enough to help this thing bounce yet. So we're waiting to see how that ends up getting affected. Now, tomorrow is going to be a new day. It's going to be Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Please keep in mind that as time is going on, we basically have minor data coming out in the morning. We just have some housing data. And then at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the FOMC minutes. That's going to be very important because the FOMC minutes is very similar to FOMC, except what's different is it's going to be the meeting on paper. So it's going to be a report that comes out, and it's going to give us more insights about what the Fed wants to do. So I expect a very, very big move at 2 p.m. tomorrow. For now, the market looks a bit more bullish, but whether or not we continue with the bullish move depends on what we see from the minutes. Will we see a rug pull? Will we not? It all depends. Right now, the market thinks there's about a 97% chance that the Fed is going to keep rates the same during the March meeting again, because of the fact that inflation is still on an uptrend, starting to go up a bit. Now, when Jerome Powell was speaking last week in front of Congress, he kept on saying the same things about how the Fed is in a very, very critical place. They're going to be very careful with all their data and such that's coming out. And the Fed has to be very, very mindful of the fact that they do affect our lives. But simultaneously, Jerome Powell remained very optimistic, saying that the U.S. is on track for a soft landing. He continued to insinuate that, and he continued to say the same things about how inflation is still on track to hitting their goal, despite the fact that it's elevated. So we'll see what happens during the FOMC minutes. Will the Fed make more announcements about, potentially keeping rates the same? Will they plan on cutting rates more? Will they give us a more dovish outlook? It all depends on what they say, so get ready for some high volatility at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Besides that, for earnings, we just have essentially Etsy, Wix, and then Carvana announcing earnings on Wednesday. And on Thursday, we have Alibaba and Walmart, so give this some time to develop. The fear and greed index is currently at neutral, stuck in the middle between fear and greed, so keep that in mind. Momentum is at neutral right now, so keep that in mind as well. And then besides that, the put to call option ratio is at extreme greed, that's making up the majority of sentiment, so just keep that all in mind. Besides that, as far as the market's going, NIO has a very, very nice looking double bottom here. I do anticipate there's going to be a bit of a pullback, though, to fill this gap. And I do expect this to base into 4.2s before we see a nice little rebound just like this. We have this imbalance up here to fill, so there might be a dip and a bounce as the most likely possibility. That's what I lean towards, at least from a technical basis. We could dip a bit more to the 4.2s before we see that bounce. That's the most likely technical move. But overall, we're still technically on a bit of an uptrend here. We're making higher highs and higher lows for the last couple of days. So we'll see if this continues. I do hope that ends up being the case. And whether or not it happens may depend on the FOMC minutes, so get ready for volatility then. But look for that move to fill this gap back down to the 4.2s before this tries to bounce. That's the most likely possibility, and we'll see how it goes. For other pieces of news, SPY remains bullish. As long as we don't end up losing 608, we're technically more bullish. If we lose 608 tomorrow, we're looking for a dip. As long as we're above this, we are going to continue to try to retest this high up here. If we break this, we're looking for an attempt for 615. Overall, the chart is bullish. We have a nice wick that formed again. It bounced. Every time SPY is dipping, it's just getting bought back up. And this has potential to go even higher from this point on. So we'll see how it goes depending on the FOMC minutes tomorrow. Will the market dip or bounce? It depends on if we lose 608 to turn bearish or if we break 612 to be more bullish. We are favoring the upwards direction with the wick forming, so it is very likely that this tries to go for 612 then 615. But we'll see depending on the data tomorrow with FOMC minutes. For the QQQ, we look a bit more bullish as long as we don't lose like 535. If we lose 535, this is going to be at risk of dipping to like the low 530s. If we're above 535, we could continue to push for 542. And eventually, 545 is our next potential targets. I think we look bullish on the QQQ, so give this some time to develop. For the Russell 2000, we have in this inverse head and shoulders like pattern that's forming. As long as we don't lose 226, we're favoring a little dip in a bounce and then a move back up to the imbalances at 228. So please keep that in mind. For ES, we look bullish. We broke past this resistance. So we're going to be looking for 61.31. As long as we hold this, we could continue to uptrend for 61.60. If we lose 6100 flat, we could be dipping lower, but I'm favoring that this was going to continue to bounce. It's holding its 20 EMA so far, and every time it dipped, it just got bought back up, so it's still technically more bullish. For NQ is also forming an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. So that's looking more bullish, especially as we have this like 22,400 targets. As long as we don't lose 22,150 and then basically 22,000 flats, as long as we hold these supports, we could try to bounce and continue to push for the 22,400s. I think there's a good chance this tries to continue like this, so we'll see how it ends up going. But when it comes to Bitcoin, we're technically on a bit of a downtrend. We're continuing to make lower highs here. I would love to see it reclaim 96,500. It's a little bit lackluster. It might retest the low 94,000s before it tries to bounce. So keep that in mind. Nvda pumped as we predicted to about the 145 area. It could be heading for 150 soon, but I think it might pull back a bit for it's possible we actually return to about 135 first. Might see a little bit of a dip first before it tries to bounce again, so just keep that in mind. I think that if we don't hold above 138, we could see 135. Then buyers could defend after that to push even higher. For Tesla, we're range bound right here. We have an inverse head and shoulders. If we lose 348, we're going to be dipping lower. And if we break past 362, we're looking for a bounce. We're just in the middle, so I think we might consolidate and try to push for 362 for now. For Aapl, we look decent. We're trying to hold support. Notice we formed a wick right here. We're actually holding up very well, so this is still favoring. I might try to go for 247. Overall, as long as we don't lose support, we're doing a great job. For a coin, although there's a bit of a downtrend here, I'm going to be watching to see if the support holds with this wick forming. We could be on our way back down to the low 260s, and we'll see if we bounce. For Amazn, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We have to see if it could hold 225 or not. If that does not hold us, we could be dipping to about 222. If we break past 229, we're looking for a bounce. I do think this might dip a bit more for 223 before it sees some buyers. Unfortunately, for the first time, Meta has closed below its 20 EMA. It's the first time it did this in many, many weeks. So we have to reclaim 723. If not, we're going to be at risk of 708, eventually 700. So it might be a small dip coming to Meta before it tries to bounce. Microsoft, however, is looking a bit more bullish. We have 410 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 412 as our next potential target. Google is in the middle between 183 and 189. It's going to likely consolidate for now. So we'll see which way this ends up going as time goes on. As far as the VIX goes, we pumped a bit, but we do have this gap to fill. Are we going to dip on the VIX and then try to bounce, or do we just reject and continue to fall? We'll see about that. For now, the market remains a bit more bullish. NIO may also remain bullish. Might see a small dip first to fill this gap before it tries to bounce. The 4.2s could be coming before it tries to bounce, especially as you have a double bottom. So we'll see how it goes. With that being said, there's still potential in NIO stock, but look for a little pullback first, and then we'll see what happens with the FOMC minutes at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for tomorrow. So get ready for the FOMC minutes, guys. We'll see what this leads to. I thank you all so much for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.